Hey everyone, I wanted to talk about the idle system of the Phrecia event in Solo Self-Found. I will share my thoughts, plus I have a few tips and tricks too. Let's dive in. This idle system is fun, creative, but not exactly Solo Self-Found friendly, I will say that much. The moment you start mapping, the idols start dropping, and before you know it, every map has 6 different league mechanics while running tier 4 maps. The idle effects are quite front-loaded in that way. You get a lot of power early on, way more than you would have by using the regular, conventional idle's passive tree. However, as mapping progresses and you have filled up the idle stash, you start realizing that there is basically no synergy whatsoever between your idols. Most of the idols you find have a bunch of random modifiers on them, and the really good idols start dropping in tier 14 plus maps only. Until you reach that point and start farming those maps, you're stuck with likely a bunch of random league mechanics. Plus, it's very hard to find modifiers that drop additional maps, meaning there's a chance you will have some map sustain issues as well. In SSF in particular, all of this is quite painful. If we would have the Atlas passive tree, we would have made our way to a specific league mechanic and invested points into that, and a few map nodes, at least that's what I usually do. With random idols, that's very hard to do as it's complete RNG. I do appreciate we get 3 loadouts, but in the early and mid game of running maps, it just doesn't help you all that much. You have to grind it out. It's a slow process all the way through tier 14 plus maps, but once you find enough idols to mix and match and find those synergies, and once you start running Eldritch Altars and get idols with pack size, the true potential is unlocked. In SSF, your maps are way juicier than they would otherwise be, and what's even better, without the downsides of that map modifier effect that's normally at the top of the tree. My Searing Exarch monsters have 108% increased pack size, spawn loads of altars, provide tons of currency, and it's been a blast. The payoff is huge. I have a few tips and tricks for you as well in SSF. First, let me tell you how I am currently using the idle system. That is the first tip, if you will. I am primarily using 2 loadouts currently. The first one is for Searing Exarch, and in here I have 108% increased Searing Exarch influenced monsters pack size, which creates tons of altars, which I enjoy a lot. There is a 100% chance to spawn an altar when the Searing Exarch monsters first appear. Those altars, all of them actually, have a 60% chance of an additional upside, increasing the juice quite a bit. I have some Fortune Favors the Brave pack size in there, so that is my map device option. I have 5% more rewarding monsters, and finally the Singular Focus unique, making me drop Jungle Valleys and Toxic Sewers only, as those are my favorite maps. The second loadout is a Maven Witness farming strategy with Destructive Play as the unique idol for up to 4 bosses per map. Those map bosses drop 109% increased Conqueror maps, plus 6.93% chance for an Elder Guardian map, plus 14.89% chance to drop a Shaper Guardian map, and plus 8.48% chance to drop a Synthesis map. The Maven Witness idol, the Destructive Play, helps a lot in expanding your stash with idols, as this unique idol adds map bosses and speeds up Maven invitations, and idols primarily drop off from map bosses. The Destructive Play is therefore incredibly useful. As unique idols are seemingly considered generic uniques, anything that has a higher chance of dropping uniques works. That includes Maven Witnessed bosses, so a decent way to farm the Destructive Play is by Maven Witnessing map bosses. But league mechanics that drop uniques, such as Ritual or Rogues, they work well too. And these can be combined, of course. You can do all of those in a single map. The third loadout is for whatever league mechanic I want to do besides this, and I will talk about that one soon. What I do in terms of updating the loadouts is simply collect a bunch of loot, put it in the dump tab, sort it, and whenever I find a new Searing Exarch pack size minor idol, I see if I can replace another one. And then I'm mainly looking at the other modifiers that are not the pack size. Maybe I'll swap out a league mechanic that I don't want to spawn, for example. And I do the same with the Maven loadout. A thing I definitely don't do is pick any of the unique idols that block league mechanics from appearing. I think giving up idle space to block league mechanics is a really horrible idea in this case. A second tip is that in SSF, an idol that has 2 mods that synergize is pretty much the best you can get. It is incredibly rare to find idols with 3 good modifiers, as they can roll so many different modifiers, and the better ones seem to be rare. And I may only have 1 or 2 idols with 4 useful modifiers. Modifiers like pack size, more rewarding monsters, shrines, or more scarabs. So hold on to idols that have 2 good modifiers, and definitely hold on to everything that has more. The third tip is to use the 3-to-1 vendor recipe, trading in 3 idols of the same rarity to get a new one. Be mindful of item level. The new idol has the lowest item level of the ones that you traded, so it may be worth to completely cleanse the idols, so you end up with only high item level ones when farming tier 14 plus maps. This vendor recipe basically gives you 33% more idols, so that's of course a good idea. I've made a little system in my dump tab to organize them, so I know that all of the idols in the top right are bad and can be vendored. The fourth tip is definitely a bit more sweaty and requires some stash space. What I've done is recreated the loadout in a stash tab using transmutation orbs, and then I started filling the loadout for a specific league mechanic that I want to run later. It is sweaty, but by doing this I can see how many decent idols I have for a certain league mechanic. Plus it's not too much hassle to pick up the idols and slot them in. This allows you to start collecting idols for a wide variety of league mechanics without having to constantly check what goes where. This setup takes a few minutes, and every time my dump tab is full I spend another 15 or 20 minutes to sort everything, but in the long run it's worth it. It's up to you if you want to engage with this and like this, but I feel I will be playing the Phrecia event for a while longer, so I may as well. So here's the conclusion. I think the idol system has a smooth start, a rough early end game, but ultimately I think a massive late game with even more juice than you would normally have, especially in solo self-found. It's a lot of fun, I think, and I'm glad GGG tried out something new here. The Atlas passive tree is superior, but this grinding and collecting and mixing and matching of idols started to grow on me in SSF. It's quite satisfying the moment I complete a loadout, swap it in, start blasting a league mechanic, and usually get way more rewards than I otherwise would. It's fun, quite creative, and I hope we see something like this return to the core game someday. But that's all. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. I hope this was helpful. Love you all, see you soon, and bye bye.